Captain Jake Morrison walked into the big meeting room on Harmony Prime Station. The room was full of aliens from 12 different worlds. They had been talking for 3 months about peace, but Jake felt like they were going nowhere fast. The aliens sat around a huge table that glowed with blue light. Their faces looked angry or bored. None of them looked happy to see humans. Jake wore his best uniform with all his medals. Next to him walked Lisa Carter, who was good at talking to aliens. Behind them came Ryan Brooks, a young officer who knew about fighting in space. They were the only humans in a room full of creatures who thought humans were stupid and dangerous. The meeting started the same way it always did. A tall crystal being named Zix Allen stood up. When he talked, his voice sounded like music, but Jake could hear the hate underneath. Zix Allen represented the Veltar people, who were made of living crystal and thought they were better than everyone else. "Your people keep taking new worlds without asking," Zix Allen said. His crystal body changed colors as he talked. "The Galactic Council wants you to leave 47 star systems right now." Jake felt his hands get tight. Those star systems had been empty when humans found them. Humans had worked for years to make them good places to live. They had built cities and farms and factories. Millions of people called those worlds home now. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. "We found those worlds first," she said in a calm voice. "We have been living there for 20 years. Our people were born there." A bug-like creature called Kethver made a clicking sound. She was the queen of the hive people, who all thought. "With one mind, you cannot own space," she said. These worlds were marked by other races long ago. Ryan could not stay quiet anymore. "Marked how?" he asked. "We never found any cities or people or even old buildings. Just empty planets with good air and water." The aliens looked at each other in that way they always did when humans asked hard questions. A blue-skinned man named Tolvesh touched his computer pad. He was from the Zanari people, who thought they were the smartest race in the galaxy. "Old laws say these worlds belong to the Council," Tolvesh said. "Your people are too young to understand such things. Perhaps you need time to grow up as a race." Jake felt something cold in his chest. Time to grow up. The aliens always talked to humans like they were children who did not know any better. They acted like humans were lucky to be allowed in space at all. "What about the attacks on our ships?" Jake asked. "When do we talk about the Drex killing our people?" The Drex were mean aliens who looked like sharks with arms and legs. They had been attacking human ships for months, stealing supplies and killing anyone who fought back. The Council always said it was not their problem. Zix Allen's crystal body went dark red. "Those are police actions," he said. "Your ships go where they should not go." "Police actions?" Ryan stood up fast. "They killed 3,000 people last year. Men, women, and children? How is that police work?" The aliens started talking to each other in their own languages. Jake could not understand the words, but he knew they were talking about humans like they were not even there. This always happened. When humans brought up dead people or broken promises, Tolvesh looked back at the humans with his big blue eyes. "Maybe humans need a break from space," he said. "We think you should stop building new homes on other worlds for 50 years. This will help you learn to be better." 50 years. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. 50 years meant his grandchildren would be old before humans could explore space again. It meant giving up everything humans had worked for. It meant letting the aliens take all the worlds humans had found. Jake looked at Lisa. Her face was white with anger. He looked at Ryan, who had his hands in fists. Jake knew they were all thinking the same thing. The aliens did not want peace. They wanted humans to go away. "I have a different idea," Jake said. He stood up slowly and looked around the room at all the alien faces. "Humans are leaving these talks." The room went very quiet. Zix Allen's crystal body started changing colors very fast. "You cannot just leave," he said. "The Council has rules about this." "Your rules only work if we care what you think," Jake said. He picked up his computer pad and papers. "Ryan, tell our ships we are going home." As the three humans walked toward the door, Tolvesh called out to them. "Without the council to protect you, your people will be all alone," he said. "Think about what you are giving up." Jake stopped walking and turned around. "We have been alone since the day we first looked up at the stars," he said. "The only thing we are giving up is pretending that you ever wanted us as friends." The big doors closed behind them with a loud bang. In the hallway, Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. "Do you know what we just did?" she asked. "We just told the whole galaxy to go away." "No," Jake said. His voice was steady and sure. "We just stopped pretending we were part of their club." They walked down the long hallway toward their ship. Behind them, the aliens were probably already making plans to punish humans for walking away. Jake did not care. Humans had been taking care of themselves for a long time before they met aliens. They could do it again. As they got on their ship, Jake looked back at the station one last time. Harmony Prime was supposed to be a place where different races came together in peace. But there had never been any peace for humans there. Just demands and threats, and treated like children. The ship pulled away from the station and headed for home. Jake sat in his chair and watched the stars go by. Somewhere out there, human families were living on worlds they had built with their own hands. Those people were counting on leaders like Jake to keep them safe. The aliens thought humans would come back begging for forgiveness. They thought humans could not survive without the Council's help. Jake smiled as he watched the stars. The aliens were about to learn something new about humans. They were about to learn that humans had survived ice ages and wars and the long trip between stars all by themselves. They were about to learn that making humans angry was not the same as making them weak. The peace talks were over. But the real story was just beginning. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the peace talks. Now Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of her big warship, the UES Defiance. She was looking at computer screens that showed her a galaxy that no longer wanted to talk to humans. Lieutenant Ben Parker sat at his radio station trying to call other races like he did every day. His face looked tired and sad. "Still nothing, Admiral," he said. "I'm sending messages on every channel we know about, but nobody answers. It is like we do not exist." Patricia nodded. She had expected this. The aliens called it corrective isolation. They were pretending that humans had never learned to fly between stars. They were acting like human cities and farms and factories were not real. Dr. Amy Foster worked at her science station nearby. She was smart about aliens and how they thought. She had been listening to alien radio shows and news programs for months. "They are not just ignoring us," she said. "They are changing their history books. They are telling new stories that do not have humans in them at all." In another room, Colonel Nick Turner spread out maps of space on a big table. The maps showed where human people lived and where alien ships were flying around. Red marks showed places where aliens were watching humans more closely. Blue marks showed places where bad things had happened to human ships and bases. "They are not fighting us with guns," Nick told the other officers. "That would be too easy to see. Instead, they are making our machines break down. They are making our ships get lost in space. They are cutting off our communications when we need them most." Commander Julia Martinez was Patricia's second in command. She studied the maps and reports. "They want us to disappear slowly," she said. "No big battles that would make humans angry. Just a slow fade until we give up and come back asking for help." Patricia walked to the big window and looked out at the stars. They looked the same as always, but now they felt different. Before, the stars had been full of friends and enemies and people to trade with. Now they were cold and empty. Will their plan work? Dr. Foster asked quietly. Patricia smiled a little. "They do not understand humans very well," she said. "We have been alone before. We lived through ice ages when most of our people died. We lived through sicknesses that killed millions. We fought wars that destroyed whole cities. We flew to the stars without anyone helping us. What they think is punishment we call normal life." Lieutenant Sam Morrison, who was Jake's younger brother, looked up from his computer. Admiral, we have a message from Earth. It is from Fleet Command. The message that came through was from the leaders of all human worlds. They have been meeting and arguing for months about what to do. Some wanted to go back to the aliens and say sorry. Others wanted to fight. But in the end, they had decided on something else entirely. Humans would not go back to the peace talks. They would not beg for forgiveness. Instead, they would do what humans had always done when things got hard. They would take care of themselves. They want us to be alone? Patricia said after reading the message, "Fine, we will show them what humans do when we are alone." The orders were clear. Every human ship was to come home to human space. Every human colony was to stop trading with aliens. Every human scientist was to stop sharing discoveries with other races. If the aliens wanted humans to disappear, then humans would disappear, but they would not disappear by dying or giving up. They would disappear by becoming something the aliens had never seen before. Dr. Foster pulled up reports from human worlds all over the galaxy. "Look at this," she said. "Our people are not sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. They are working harder than ever. Shipbuilders are making new designs. Scientists are testing new ideas. Farmers are growing more food. It is like the whole human race just got angry at the same time." Commander Martinez looked at the production numbers. "We are building ships twice as fast as before," she said. "And these are not the old ships we made when we were trying to be friends with aliens. These are purely human ships, built for humans by humans. The new ships look different from the old ones. They were not pretty or smooth like alien ships. They looked tough and mean, like they were built by people who expected to fight for everything they had. Because that was exactly who had built them." Patricia remembered something her grandfather had told her when she was little. He had been a soldier in an old Earth war. "When someone pushes you into a corner," he had said, "you have two choices. You can curl up and cry, or you can come out swinging." Humans always come out swinging. That was what was happening now, all across human space. Millions of people who had been trying to be good neighbors were now focused on one thing: making sure humans could survive without help from anyone. On Mars, huge factories were building new types of engines that did not need alien technology. On the Moon, scientists were working on weapons that aliens had never seen before. On Earth, every major city had been turned into a giant workshop where people worked day and night making everything humans would need to stand alone. The aliens had made one big mistake. They thought humans needed them more than they needed humans. But the truth was the opposite. Human colonies made most of the food that aliens ate. Human factories made most of the tools that aliens used. Human miners dug up most of the metals that aliens needed for their ships. Lieutenant Parker looked up from his radio again. "Admiral, I am getting strange reports from our spy networks. Some alien worlds are having problems, food shortages, metal shortages. Their factories are slowing down." "Good," Patricia said. "Let them figure out how to live without us for a while." The months of silence had taught humans an important lesson. They did not need to be part of the galactic community to survive. In fact, they might be better off without it. Without alien rules telling them what they could and could not do. Human technology was advancing faster than ever before. Without alien oversight, human colonies were expanding to new worlds. Without alien trade agreements, humans were free to make their own deals with the few races that still wanted to be friends. Patricia activated the ship's communication system to talk to all the human commanders in her fleet. Her message was simple, but carried the weight of an entire species that had decided it was tired of being pushed around. "This is Admiral Hayes to all human forces," she said. "The aliens wanted us to learn our place in the galaxy. Mission accomplished. We have learned that our place is wherever we decide to stand, and we do not need anyone's permission to stand there." The responses came back from dozens of ship captains, hundreds of colony leaders, and thousands of human soldiers. They were all saying the same thing. They were ready to show the galaxy what happened when you tried to make humans disappear. The Aliens had demanded humanity's silence. What they were about to get was something much more dangerous. They were about to get humanity's full attention, focused entirely on the problem of how to survive in a hostile galaxy, and humans, as the aliens were about to learn, were very good at solving problems. 2 years had passed since humans walked away from the galaxy, and Alex Stone could see the results everywhere he looked. He stood in his office high above the Manhattan shipbuilding complex, watching as huge new warships rolled off assembly. Lines that never stopped working. The city below buzzed with activity 24 hours a day. Every building had been turned into a factory. Every street was full of trucks carrying materials and parts. Sandra Williams, his deputy, walked into the office carrying the daily production reports. "We are ahead of schedule again," she said. 1,200 new ships will be ready to fly this month. The new engines are working 40% better than anything we had before. Alex nodded as he looked at the numbers. Without alien technology agreements limiting what humans could build, their engineers had gone wild with new ideas. Faster engines, stronger armor, better weapons. All the things aliens had told them were too dangerous for young races to have. How? "Are the other projects going?" Alex asked. "The Mars factories are running at full speed," Sandra said. "The asteroid mining crews are bringing in more metal than we can use. And the research stations are making breakthroughs every week." On the moon, Dr. Chris Bennett worked in a laboratory that had not existed 3 years ago. The Breakthrough Initiative was humanity's most secret project. Around him, the best human scientists worked on technologies that would make alien rules meaningless. "The test results look good," he told his partner, Dr. Helen Martinez. "If we can make the new drive system stable, we will be able to travel faster than light without using alien jump gates." Helen looked at the data on her computer screen. "Complete independence," she said. "No more relying on their roads through space." The new human ships were different from anything that had come before. They were not built to look pretty or to make aliens feel comfortable. They were built by people who had learned that the galaxy was not a friendly place. Every line and angle was designed for efficiency and survival. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Ray Collins studied intelligence reports in the Pentagon's new Xenological Warfare Division. The aliens had taught humans an important lesson: never trust anyone who thinks you are inferior. Now humans were preparing for the possibility that the Cold War might become a hot one. "Their isolation plan is backfiring," he told his staff. "They thought cutting us off would make us weak. Instead, it made us focus on becoming stronger." Major Katie Rogers, his intelligence chief, pulled up economic reports from across the galaxy. "Our withdrawal has hurt them badly," she said. Human colonies provided 37% of the galaxy's rare metals, 42% of its food, and 68% of its manufactured goods. "And they are too proud to admit they need us," Collins observed. "Instead, they are trying to force us back through intimidation." The intimidation had been growing for months. Alien ships shadowed human vessels just outside their territory. Mining stations reported mysterious contacts on their sensors that vanished when investigated. Human diplomats trying to meet with friendly races found their communications jammed, but humans were not the same people who had walked out of the peace talks 2 years ago. Every challenge the aliens presented was met with a new solution. Every threat was answered with better defenses. Every attempt to isolate humans only made them more self-reliant. In his private office, Alex activated a secure communication channel that reached every human commander in space. The network used quantum encryption that alien scientists could not break. It was just one of dozens of technologies that humans had developed since going their own way. "This is Director Stone to all human forces," he said. "Phase 1 is complete. Our infrastructure is independent, our technology is advancing, and our people are united. It is time for Phase 2. Show them what happens when you corner a species that survived by never giving up." The response came back from hundreds of ship captains, thousands of colony leaders, and millions of human citizens. They were ready. For 2 years, they had been building and planning and preparing. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they had accomplished. The changes were visible everywhere in human space. The Sol system, humanity's home, had been transformed into the greatest industrial complex in the galaxy. Mars was covered with shipyards and factories. The asteroid belt was full of mining stations that never stopped working. Even tiny moons had been turned into research facilities and supply depots, but the real changes were in the people themselves. Humans who had once tried to fit in with galactic society were now proud of being different. They had learned that their willingness to fight for what they believed in was not a weakness to be ashamed of, but a strength that made them unique. Dr. Bennett sent his latest report to the Research Coordination Center on Earth. Dimensional phase technology is ready for field testing, he wrote. Quantum communication arrays are operational across all human worlds. Adaptive shielding has passed all trials. We are ready to move to active deployment. The technologies humans had developed were not just improvements on existing alien science. They were completely new approaches that alien scientists had never imagined. Humans had taken their natural creativity and focused it entirely on the problem of survival in a hostile galaxy, on the frontier worlds. Human colonists had learned to be completely self-sufficient. They grew their own food, built their own tools, and defended their own homes without any help from Earth or anyone else. Children born on these worlds grew up knowing that humans could survive anywhere. Under any conditions, the alien intelligence networks that tried to spy on human activities found themselves facing a puzzle they could not solve. Humans were not just building ships and weapons. They were building an entirely new kind of civilization, one designed from the ground up to need nothing from anyone else. General Collins received a priority message from one of his deep cover agents in alien space. Sir, the message read, multiple Council races are experiencing critical supply shortages. Industrial production is down 30% galaxy-wide. Civil unrest is reported on 12 worlds. They are starting to panic. Collins smiled as he read the report. The aliens had thought they could make humans disappear by cutting them off from galactic society. Instead, they had cut themselves off from the most productive and innovative race in the galaxy. Send word to all fleet commanders, Collins ordered. Prepare for contact. The aliens are going to try to force us back to the negotiating table. Soon, they think they can intimidate us into accepting their terms. Major Rogers looked up from her intelligence reports. What if they attack in force? Then they will learn why every human child studies military history, Collins replied. We have been preparing for this possibility since the day we walked out of their meeting room. In space stations hidden throughout human territory, massive fleets of new warships waited for orders. These were not the ships humans had built when they were trying to be friends with aliens. These were weapons of war designed by people who had learned that peace was something you had to be strong enough to enforce. The galaxy had demanded humanity's silence. For 2 years, humans had been silent while they worked and built and planned. But silence and surrender were very different things. Soon the aliens would learn the difference. Soon, they would discover that making humans angry was not a way to make them weak. It was a way to make them dangerous. The first sign that everything had changed came at a place called Kepler 442. Captain Danny Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching as his small fleet of 12 human ships faced down a massive alien battle group. 40 Drex. Warships floated in space ahead of them, supported by Veltar energy platforms and Zenari biocruisers that looked like giant living creatures. They brought a lot of friends, Lieutenant Emma Stone said from her weapons station. They are going to need more, Danny replied calmly. The aliens had expected this to be easy. They were here to remove human squatters from a mining world that the Council claimed belonged to them. They had brought overwhelming force to make sure the humans would not resist. What they had not expected was that humans were no longer the same people they had been 3 years ago. The battle lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it was over, 37 alien ships had been destroyed or disabled. The human fleet reported minor damage to 2 vessels and 0 deaths. The key difference was technology that aliens had never seen before. Human engineers, freed from Council restrictions, had built ships with adaptive shields that changed to block different types of weapons. They had quantum-lock targeting systems that could hit enemy ships even when they tried to hide. Most importantly, they had developed battle tactics based on human military history, something most alien races found too violent to study. The surviving alien commanders sent panicked reports back to their homeworlds. Human technology has advanced beyond all projections, they said. Their ships are immune to our weapons. Their tactics are incomprehensible. They fight like they expect to die but refuse to lose. News of the victory spread through underground networks faster than the Council could suppress it. In the Arcturus sector, 3 minor alien races quietly began reaching out to human diplomatic contacts. In the Vega colonies, civilian populations tired of food shortages began protesting their government's anti-human policies. Ambassador Tolvesh called an emergency council meeting aboard the new station they had built to replace Harmony Prime. The assembled alien representatives looked much less confident than they had 3 years earlier. The blue-skinned Zanari diplomat activated his presentation display with shaking hands. "The humans are becoming a threat to galactic stability," he announced. "Their rate of technological advancement exceeds all our models. Their military capabilities now rival any single council member race." Hive Queen Kethver clicked her mandibles nervously. "Our intelligence networks report that they have developed faster-than-light communications that do not rely on the galactic network. They can coordinate actions across their entire territory instantly." The crystal being Zix Allen shifted through several agitated color patterns. Worse, they are sharing their technologies with non-council species. Minor races that were never threats before are now building human-designed weapons and ships. What none of the council members wanted to say out loud was that their isolation strategy had failed completely. Instead of making humans weak and dependent, it had forced them to become more dangerous than ever. Without council oversight, human innovation had exploded beyond all predictions. Without council mediation, they had become ruthlessly efficient in dealing with threats on frontier worlds throughout the galaxy. Independent traders began flying ships equipped with human technology despite council prohibitions. Rebel groups on oppressed planets quietly adopted human military tactics and weapons. Even some council member species began conducting secret research into human innovations. The message was becoming clear across the galaxy. The Council had tried to make humanity irrelevant and instead had made them indispensable. In his private chambers, Tolvesh received a coded transmission from his home government. The message was brief but carried enormous implications. Open secret communications with human leadership immediately. Economic situation becoming critical. Alternative supply sources proving inadequate. Similar messages were reaching representatives throughout the council chambers. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations were discovering that removing humanity from the galactic economy had created problems they could not solve. But when they tried to contact human leaders, they found that humans were no longer answering their calls. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching long-range sensors track massive alien fleet movements throughout human space. They were gathering forces from across the galaxy, either for a final assault intended to crush human independence once and for all, or for a show of force designed to drag humans back to the negotiating table. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Commander Julia Martinez asked. Hayes smiled grimly. "Signal Fleet Command. Tell them the Council is about to make their next move." She paused, looking out at stars that no longer seemed cold and distant. "And tell them we are ready for whatever comes next." The changes in human technology were visible to anyone who knew what to look for. Human ships moved through space using drive systems that alien scientists could not understand. Human colonies defended themselves with energy shields that operated on entirely new principles. Human communication networks used quantum encryption that no alien intelligence service could break. But the most important change was not in technology. It was in the humans themselves. 3 years of isolation had transformed them from a young species seeking acceptance into something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization that truly did not need Anyone else to survive? Dr. Amy Foster, now directing humanity's xenological research, published a report that would have been unthinkable before the walkout. Analysis of galactic power structures reveals fundamental instabilities, she wrote. Council authority is based on economic interdependence and technological superiority. Both foundations have been compromised by human independence. The report went on to detail how human withdrawal had created cascading failures throughout the galactic economy. Food shortages on 12 worlds. Industrial slowdowns on 37 planets. Transportation bottlenecks affecting hundreds of trade routes. The aliens had built their civilization assuming that no major race would ever choose complete self-reliance. General Collins received intelligence reports from across the galaxy showing the effects of human isolation. Sir, Major Rogers briefed him, 17 council member species have experienced significant civil unrest in the past 6 months. Their populations are demanding explanations for the economic problems caused by the human embargo. Any signs? They are ready to negotiate? Collins asked. Not officially, Rogers replied. But we are detecting increased military activity near our borders. They appear to be preparing for some kind of major action. Collins nodded. Then it is time to show them what human military preparations look like. Throughout human space, concealed weapons platforms powered up for the first time. Fleets that had been hidden in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres began moving to strategic positions. Dimensional laboratories that had been working in secret for 3 years prepared to deploy technologies that would revolutionize warfare. The aliens thought they understood humans because they had fought against human ships and traded with human colonies, but they had never seen humanity fully committed to war. They had never faced a species that had learned to expect the worst from everyone and prepare accordingly. Captain Wright sent his battle report to Fleet Command along with tactical analyses that would be studied by human military academies for generations. Enemy forces relied on superior numbers and established weapon systems, he wrote. Human advantages, adaptive technology, unpredictable tactics, and willingness to accept casualties in exchange for victory. The last point was crucial, alien. Military doctrine was based on minimizing losses and achieving objectives with overwhelming force. Human military doctrine was based on the assumption that every battle might be the last one, and that losing was not an option regardless of the cost. As news of the Kepler 442 victory spread through human space, celebration was mixed with grim determination. Everyone knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would not accept defeat quietly. They would gather their forces and try to crush human independence before it could spread to other races, but humans were ready for that too. They had spent 3 years preparing for the day when talking would end and fighting would begin. That day was coming soon, and when it arrived, the galaxy would learn what happened when you cornered the most stubborn species in known space. The stars were no longer silent. They were holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The final battle that changed everything forever was not really a battle at all. It was a lesson that taught the galaxy what humans had become during their 3 years of silence. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the UES Sovereign, watching the largest alien fleet in galactic history appear on her long-range sensors. 500 council ships from 12 different species had gathered at the edge of human space. Every major alien civilization had sent their best warships and most experienced commanders for what they believed would be humanity's final defeat. They brought everyone, Captain Jake Morrison observed from his position as Fleet Tactical Coordinator. Good, Hayes replied calmly. Saves us the trouble of hunting them down separately. The human fleet that faced this massive alien armada seemed almost insignificant by comparison. Barely 200 ships hung in the darkness of space, looking small and fragile. Next to the alien vessels that could destroy planets and sterilize star systems, Admiral Tolvesh commanded the alien coalition from his flagship, surrounded by the combined leadership of the Galactic Council. They had come here to end the human problem once and for all. 3 years of economic disruption and technological surprises had convinced them that Humanity could not be allowed to exist as an independent power. Begin the demonstration. Tolvesh ordered his weapons officers. The alien fleet's opening move was designed to show humans the futility of resistance. Energy beams that could shatter moons, quantum missiles that could phase through normal matter, and bioweapons that consumed metal like acid all fired at once. The combined firepower of 500 warships converged on the location where the human fleet had been moments before. The weapons struck empty space. Where 200 human ships had been floating just seconds earlier, there was now nothing. No debris, no energy signatures, no trace that they had ever existed at all. Tolvesh stared at his sensor displays in confusion. "Status report," he demanded. "Where are the human vessels?" His tactical officer, a nervous Veltar named Kixmarin, checked his readings multiple times before responding. "Unknown, Admiral. They were there, and then they were not. No faster-than-light signatures detected. No cloaking technology we can identify." The answer came from a voice that spoke simultaneously over every communication channel in the alien fleet. It was a clear human voice speaking perfect Zenari, Veltar, Drex, and 6 other alien languages at the same time. "Looking for us?" As the alien fleet spun to face this impossible transmission, their sensors registered something that violated everything they knew about physics and space combat. The human fleet had not disappeared. They had moved to a position that should not have been possible. They were occupying the same space as the alien fleet, but somehow existing in a slightly different dimension. "Close enough to touch, but impossible to target," Captain Danny Wright, now commanding a vessel that looked nothing like the ships humanity had built even 1 year earlier, addressed the alien coalition with calm authority. "This is Captain Wright. Of the human interdimensional fleet. You are trespassing in human territorial space. You have 60 seconds to withdraw." "Impossible," Hive Queen Kethver transmitted on the emergency frequency. "Dimensional phasing is theoretical technology. No species has ever successfully developed practical applications." Her transmission was cut off as human ships began materializing throughout the alien formation. Not dozens, but thousands. Every piece of space debris, every seemingly empty patch of vacuum, every shadow cast by the alien ships themselves suddenly revealed human vessels that had been hiding in parallel dimensional layers. Hayes opened a direct channel to Tolvesh's command. "Ship. Admiral Tolvesh, this is Admiral Hayes. 3 years ago, you told us we would face the consequences of our actions alone. You were right. The consequence is that we learned we did not need you, any of you, for anything. Dr. Amy Foster now, directing humanity's dimensional research from her command vessel, provided the scientific explanation that would be studied by alien researchers for centuries. Dimensional layering allows us to occupy multiple spatial coordinates simultaneously. She said, your weapons cannot target what exists in a different phase state. Your sensors cannot track what operates on alternate quantum frequencies, but the demonstration was far from over. Throughout the galaxy, similar revelations were occurring at exactly the same moment. Human ships appeared in orbit around every Council homeworld, not as invaders, but as observers who had been watching all along. They materialized in every major trade route, every strategic star system, every location the Council had considered vital to galactic security. The message was unmistakable. Humanity had been watching, learning, and preparing while the aliens thought they were isolated and helpless. They had developed capabilities that made traditional military superiority meaningless. "What do you want?" Tolvesh finally asked, his voice carrying the weight of civilizations that had suddenly become obsolete. Alex Stone, speaking from Earth's new dimensional command center, provided the answer that would define the galaxy's future. "We want what we have always wanted," he said, "to be left alone to develop in peace. The difference is, now we have the power to guarantee it. And if we refuse to accept this situation?" Hayes provided the response that would echo through galactic history. "Then you will learn why every human military academy teaches the same lesson. Never corner a species that survived by being more stubborn than the universe itself." The alien fleet began withdrawing without firing another shot. There was no point in fighting an enemy that could exist in dimensions they could not reach, using technologies they could not understand, backed by a civilization that had learned to expect the worst and prepare for anything. In the months that followed, the Galactic Council dissolved. Some species tried to maintain the old power structures, but the fundamental balance of power had shifted beyond recovery. Others approached humanity with offers of genuine partnership based on mutual respect, rather than the old patterns of condescension and control. Humanity proved to be surprisingly reasonable neighbors as long as they were treated as equals. Trade resumed on terms that benefited both sides. Scientific cooperation flourished between species that approached each other with curiosity rather than assumptions of superiority. Cultural exchanges brought new ideas and perspectives to civilizations that had been stagnating for millennia. The galaxy had learned that silence, when chosen by humans, was not submission. It was preparation. And the stars, no longer silent, now carried the voices of 1,000 species, learning to speak to each other as equals for the first time in galactic history. Jake Morrison, now serving as humanity's first interdimensional ambassador, stood on the observation deck of a station that existed in folded space. The station occupied all dimensions simultaneously, accessible to any species willing to approach in peace, but impossible to attack or destroy. The peace talks never really ended, he told his aide, Lieutenant Ben Parker. They just moved to a place where everyone has an equal voice. Outside the viewports, ships from dozens of species moved through dimensional layers that human science had made accessible to all. The galaxy looked the same as it always had, but everything had changed. Some alien leaders still resented humanity's dominance, but they could not argue with the results. Galactic commerce was more efficient than ever. Scientific advancement had accelerated across all species. Wars between member races had become impossible when humans could appear anywhere instantly to enforce peace. The new order was not perfect, but it was based on a simple principle that the old council had never understood. True peace could only exist between equals, and humanity had made sure that everyone in the galaxy was now equal, whether they liked it or not. In the depths of space, monitoring stations that existed between dimensions continued their eternal watch. They were crewed by humans who had learned that sometimes the best way to keep the peace was to make sure everyone understood the price of breaking it. The stars were no longer silent. They sang with the voices of free peoples who had learned that the universe was big enough for everyone, as long as everyone remembered to be respectful neighbors.